Ave Stoner Squad, my name is DanIsStoned, and thank you for joining me today for another Imperator Academy video. In today's installment we shall be talking about pops, the living and breathing entities that make up the people you govern within your realm. In this video we shall cover what the different pop types are, what they do, how their output is affected, and how they directly impact Provincial Loyalty if not properly managed. So without any further ado, let's dive right into the video and Imperator Rome guide to pops and by extension, Provincial Loyalty. First of all, we need to get an understanding of what pops are before we can dive into what they do and affect within the world of Imperator. Pops represent people that live, work and die within your nation. They are the backbone of your realm, creating you riches through taxes and commerce, fighting men through manpower and technological innovations through research. Before I go any further, for those entirely new to the game, I do recommend checking out the economic, religious and cultural guides I have made. It will make this video a lot easier to understand. In Imperator Rome, there are 4 types of pops that present a very general view of ancient society, each providing one of the 3 major in-game resources. Up first we have slaves. These are the lowest of the low in the ancient world, and slaves make up the backbone of your economy, creating taxable income. Next on the list are freemen. The free people of the civilized world, freemen make up your fighting force, providing the player with the manpower needed for your legions and levies, as well as a small amount of taxable income. Next up we have tribesmen. The scourge of the civilized world, tribesmen are essentially located in Europe and Scandinavia, residing within the plethora of settled, federated and migratory tribes present in this part of the world. Tribesmen provide the player with a small amount of tax and manpower, but considerably less than slaves and freemen. The following pop type are called citizens, and make up the higher echelons of ancient society. Citizens provide you with research points needed to gain technology levels, as well as a small amount of manpower. And finally, we have the creme de la creme of all civilized society, and that is the nobles. Nobles provide you with a huge amount of research points. Now that we have identified each pop type and what they produce, we can ask ourselves what determines the output of each pop type. What I mean by this is what determines the amount that each pop produces. The answer to that question is happiness. The happier the pop type in a territory, then the higher that pop type's output. But how does this work exactly? Well, what the game does is it takes the average happiness of all the pops of each type in the territory and then calculates something called output efficiency. This output efficiency is then multiplied by the local population output located in the bottom left hand side of the territory screen. This local output multiplier depends on a variety of factors such as the civilization level of the territory and local trade goods, for example. The higher the average happiness of a pop category in a territory, then the higher the output. Of course, the opposite is also applied. The lower the happiness, then of course the lower the output. Each pop type has something called a base happiness value, on top of which is added a series of multipliers based on numerous factors such as religion, culture, civilization value, inventions, and much more. Slaves have the lowest base happiness at minus 30%, since I guess it was not fun being a slave back then. Freemen are sort of neutral, having 0% base happiness. Citizens and nobles, on the other hand, also start with a negative modifier to their base happiness. Citizens have a minus 10% to their base happiness, and nobles minus 20%, so they are slightly harder to keep happy. This then creates the individual happiness of a pop. Once each pop's individual happiness has been calculated, the game then averages the happiness of each pop category in order to create the average pop type happiness that then determines the overall output. Once the average output is determined, then the local population output modifier is applied, and hey presto, you have the amount that a pop type in a territory produces. This is done on a territorial scale, and not on a provincial, regional, or national scale. There is, however, one exception to this rule. Slaves' output is not affected by their overall happiness, since slave pops always have a base happiness of 100% when calculating output, no matter what their happiness value may be. Now we have seen that pop happiness directly affects output, we can take a look at something else which is indirectly affected by pop happiness levels in a territory, and that is provincial loyalty. How do pops and their happiness indirectly affect provincial loyalty, might you ask? Well, in order to understand this, we must see how province loyalty works. Province loyalty is a value that ranges from 0 to 100 that determines the loyalty of a province to you, the ruler. Once this value hits 0, then the province will lead a rebellion against you. This value can increase or decrease at a monthly rate. The increase or decrease depends on the overall provincial loyalty for each territory in the said province. What I mean by this is that each territory in a province has a provincial loyalty value. Each territory's provincial loyalty value in a province is then added together to create an overall province loyalty increase or decrease. Each territory's provincial loyalty value is determined by the amount of unrest produced by the said territory, and this is where pop happiness comes into play. If a pop's happiness drops below 50%, then it will start generating unrest in the territory in which the said pop resides. The more unhappy pops in the territory, then the higher the unrest value. This unrest value is then converted into an impact on the province loyalty number. The way this works is you multiply the territory's province loyalty determined by unrest generated by these unhappy pops by the percentage of pops in the territory in relation to the whole province divided by 100. Now do bear with me, this does seem complicated, but I have got a detailed example ready for you guys in order to explain things as clearly and as simple as possible. For instance, in the city of Aspedan, located in the province of Paratacine, our unhappy pops generate 3.27 unrest, which is then converted to 0.26 territory provincial loyalty. This 0.26 territory provincial loyalty value is then multiplied by 0.451, which is the percentage of the total province's population that resides in the city of Aspedana divided by 100. So 45.12% of the province's population live in Aspedana, divide that number by 100 and you get the 0.451 value, to which we multiply that onto the 0.26 territorial province loyalty gained through unrest. So in the end it is 0.26 multiplied by 0.451, and the result is the 0.11 value, which is indicated in the impact on province loyalty, which can be found in the province loyalty bar. So now begs the question, how do we counter this problem? Well, there are a lot of ways. First and foremost, the obvious answer is to increase your overall pop's happiness. One of the main factors that seriously affect pop happiness is culture. Try to assimilate your pops to your primary culture to increase their overall happiness. To do this, build grand theatres in your cities to speed up assimilation speed. You can also integrate pops of different cultures to help with their happiness. This effectively saves you having to assimilate the whole culture and provides the added benefits of increasing your potential levies and your research efficiency. Remember, integrated pops have higher happiness than unintegrated pops. Also, try to grant some decision to some cultures. It can also increase their overall happiness without having to integrate them. I won't go over how and when to integrate here. I did a video on culture not too long ago, so if you want more details on culture, then do go and check that out. Buildings are also a good way to increase local pop happiness for each pop type. The Academy, Court of Law, Forum and Mill Building all increase local pop happiness for each type of pop. Numerous inventions that increase pop happiness are also worth keeping an eye out for, so look out for them in the technology section. Policies are also a neat way of maintaining province loyalty. The harsh treatment policy is particularly effective at keeping province loyalty stable until you can figure out a way to reduce unrest. The amount that the harsh treatment policy increases province loyalty by depends on the finesse stat of the governor you have assigned. Speaking of governors, be careful of the corrupt ones. The more corrupt a governor, the bigger the decrease in province loyalty. Trade goods are also a good way of increasing pop happiness. Try to get a surplus of trade goods in the capital that provide you with a nationwide bonus to a certain pop type. For example, the surplus of precious metals is a good one, and it provides the player with an overall increase of 8% to your national citizen happiness, no matter their culture. And finally, keep an eye on stability and war exhaustion. Negative stability, so anything below 50, can start to affect your pop's happiness. The lower the stability, then the bigger the decrease, and this can be a killer in provinces that already have large amounts of unrest. The same can be said for war exhaustion. The higher the value of war exhaustion, then the bigger the decrease to pop's happiness. Well, that's about it for this video. I couldn't cover everything because the video would be way too long, but hopefully I got through most of the important stuff, which will help you understand what POPs do and how they have a direct and indirect impact on output and provincial loyalty, as well as how to counteract unrest. If the video did help in any shape or form, then please give the video a like, and if you haven't already, then why don't you go ahead and fabricate a claim on the subscribe button. Before I leave you, I just wanted to give a heads up to those who are not aware. Once the Bosporan and Antigonid runs are completed, I shall be switching over to the new format detailed in my last community post. I shall be posting one video a day, sometimes two depending on my available time, alternating between Imperator Rome and all other games, along with guides and tutorials. Hopefully this will allow me to take a breather and keep delivering more quality content than quantity. Thank you all for understanding, you're all the best. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me, and I shall hopefully catch you all in the next one. Bye for now.